Hi Casey, can you give us an overview of yourself?
So I'm Casey. I'm a film lecturer and filmmaker, part of Idlework Factory production company. I've been teaching film for further and higher education institutions for longer than I care to admit now. I'm programme leader for film and creative media at Bradford School of Art, which is part of the broader Bradford College. And I teach from level 2 all the way up to level 6 in all areas of the screen sectors. So my specialism is film and creative media production, but we also teach graphic design, animation, games design and development, and sound production as part of this, and television.
Very cool. From a film lecturer's perspective, I want to ask you a few questions about Bradford and how it's maybe difficult or easy to get into the film industry from a film lecturer's perspective, because I just want to give the audience some perspective in case they want to get into the film industry.
Yeah,
so cool. So my first question is, Bradford is known as the world's first UNESCO city of film, and I want to know how that impacts people living in Bradford and how it affects them going into the film industry, and does it make a difference being a UNESCO city of film, or is it just a title?
I genuinely feel like it makes such a difference because I'm quite new to Bradford. So I only moved here in July of 21.
Okay.
So I started teaching at the School of Art in the February, and I located from just outside of Manchester to Leeds and then to Bradford. And for me, like, having lived in so many places up north, Bradford has got such like a rich film heritage and so many creative people, organisations, opportunities that I feel like its status as a UNESCO city of film is so imperative to its identity. When I moved to Bradford, I genuinely didn't have any idea about the rich film heritage of Bradford. And like I've mentioned previously to you, my number one passion growing up was about British New Wave and social realism. And when I moved here, we lived close to Solitaire, and I was walking down the street in the Solitaire, and there's a blue plaque on the wall, and it says Tony Richardson lived here. And I was like, now, A Taste of Honey is an absolute like fundamental example for me of the kind of films that I want to make. Growing up, A Taste of Honey, I know it's an adaptation from Sheila Delaney's stage play, but that to me was such an amazing example of social realism, shot in Salford, and it talked about interracial relationships and working class families, and when I saw his name on the plaque, I was like, no way, it felt like fate. And then to see that Billy Liar, which is another like sterling example of one of my favourite kind of films, was shot here as well. It just feels like we really need to boast about the heritage and the history, but also the future of film in Bradford. I'm originally from just outside of Manchester, and I moved to Bradford in July of 2021. So I'm quite new to the city. And having lived at some like Manchester, Leeds, and big cities in the north, I personally feel like Bradford is such a hub for film and the screen sector. And I think that it's well deserving of its title as first UNESCO city of film. And although it's got such a rich and exciting heritage, I think that it's also equally as exciting moving forward in the industry that it continues to build here.
Yeah, now you just mentioned that you used to live in Manchester and you moved to Bradford. Is there anything that stands out differently because you worked in the film industry in Manchester? Is there anything that just like maybe something that stands out to you that's different?
I think that our students have such opportunity. When I was teaching in Manchester, you've got Media City there, you've got lots of big organisations, but the actual grassroots opportunities for young people and people in the early stages of their career were not as present. And I think in Bradford, there's so much opportunity to work in all areas of the screen sector. If you want to go into production design or screenwriting or videography in terms of advertising, marketing, curating at the museum, there's so much opportunity, and our students are literally inundated with work experience that Bradford-based students are building show reels, which are just like excellent for this level of like study. And I think the city has really harnessed young people and the screen sector and a strategy to really kind of enrich and empower the film and screen industry in Bradford.
I completely agree with you. I've seen some of these show reels that students have been making, and just people around Bradford, and they're very, very, really impressive, and they stand out to me a lot compared to other show reels I've maybe seen. And do you think that the difference is because of the community level in Bradford? I feel like because Bradford's kind of a smaller city, I think the community is a bit more tight-knit. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, there's so much community here, but also it's a very young city. I can't remember the statistic, but Bradford as a whole has got such a young demographic.
Really?
And I feel like the young people that live here are so progressive, not just in terms of the arts and being creative, but in terms of politics and being progressive and being great radical thinkers, that there's always something going on. Whether it's like an installation or an exhibition or an event. I went to that amazing opening of Youth Cuts, which is an initiative set up by two young men who have opened a barbers to help support mental health for young people. And I think that these kind of initiatives are supported by young people and driven by young people. And I think that's what makes Bradford so exciting.
No, yeah, again, completely agree with you. I heard about Youth Cuts on Instagram, and I think it's a really, really good thing that these guys are doing, especially because mental health is obviously very important, and especially I think from a guy's perspective, it's harder to speak out, and these two guys that are making it easier for people to speak out.
Yeah.
It's just a really good thing to do.
But relating that back to film and videography and like moving image, these kind of like charities, initiatives, projects that are being set up, students and young people are so excited to document that and learn the media skills to self-promote and raise awareness. And I think that everything is like, even if you just look on Instagram in our local city, there's so much going on.
So much. Yeah.
So much.
Okay, over to the next question. Bradford seems to be experiencing a pickup in high-end TV production and dramas. I think a lot of it has to do with Channel 4 moving to Leeds. A lot of it has to do with Netflix. Netflix is, I think, it's a lot more broader, where they don't only pick, London and things. They pick all around the UK. And I think we spoke about this earlier, about how although the dramas are being filmed here, the crew and production staff are all from the south. None of these really getting hired in the West Yorkshire region.
Yeah.
Or very little. What do you think that has to do with?
So I think that film, television, broadcasting, it's going through a process of change at the minute. And I think traditionally the heart of film and TV was in London, and it was based down south. And I think that the North has really tried to embrace media, and they've, like with Media City and Channel 4 moving to Leeds, and it's really tried to change the way that the industry works. Screen Yorkshire do some great work in bringing productions to Yorkshire, harnessing the locations that we have here, the gorgeous architecture in Bradford, the kind of more rural settings around Bradford, that a lot of these productions want to use these locations and kind of come here to shoot. I think traditionally the industry works on a who you know basis, and people will hire people based on who they know. And even if you're not from London, the idea was that if you wanted to work in film or TV, you move down south or you move to London. So I think there's still a lot of that going on, where people, once you're in the industry, that's it, you're using these people that have already worked in your production team, they've been recommended. And I think the Film Office is doing some wonderful work to try and promote the skill sets and the crafts and the filmmakers that we have here. And they're collecting like a bank of CVs and show reels, so they can try and make sure that if they are shooting productions here, why aren't we using the talent that's present here and supporting the industry rather than just taking our gorgeous scenery and our beautiful buildings. So I think that even though it is frustrating, I do feel like it's going through a process of change, and that shift is really going to help support these young people and these people that are new into their careers in gaining credits and working on some big productions.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's a really positive way to look at it. And I do agree with you about this change that's going on, and them collecting the bank of CVs is awesome. And yeah, nepotism is really a big thing in the film industry, isn't it? Like family members and people, and I think partly an excuse could be work with this person before I can trust him, nothing's going to go wrong. But on the other hand, we need these new voices, especially in West Yorkshire and Bradford. We need all these new voices, because we have voices that are different to the ones that we see on TV all the time, and they need to just be said.
Yeah, and I get really frustrated with the fact that there are young people from working class backgrounds and backgrounds where they haven't got a relative that works in the industry, or they don't have lots of money to go and produce their own work, and they really beg and borrow to produce work and make films and write and work hard. And then there's opportunities that are handed to people that have just got an interest, and they've not already demonstrated that they've worked hard and put in the effort to produce their own work.
Yeah.
So this is something where we're hitting a bit of a brick wall, that opportunities to brand new filmmakers or people that want to get into the industry. But if you've already got a show reel and you've already made something, then they deem that as experience, and these opportunities aren't handed to these people. So I think that is a little bit 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards for a lot of people.
Yeah, 100%. And I think another thing to do with it is people want to work with specific names. They want to be known to be associated with these people, so those people get the handout straight away.
Yeah.
Whereas the people who work hard, who don't have an established name, have to work twice as hard to get half of the interest.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Alright, cool. So, third question. As a lecturer, you might be biased, but I want to talk about the university route and maybe the working your way up or the apprenticeship route, and what you would... Is it a person-by-person, case-by-case basis, or is it something you believe strongly in the education system?
No, I believe in differentiation. So every single person has a different way of learning, and a different avenue into their chosen career. And I think that the pathway into that career should be supported by their aims and aspirations. And university or the academic route isn't necessarily the right fit for some people. They may choose to do an apprenticeship, or start working with a company. But I think that university has really changed. And I know when I was growing up, I'm the only member of my family to ever go to university. And when I left high school, I went to college and I studied A-levels in film and media. And my high school lecturers were very much well, you're academic, you've done really well in your exams, so why would you want to study film? Why would you want to study media? And I was because that's what I want to do. And there was this kind of culture that studying an art or with going into the digital sector wasn't really a great career. Now, I went to university to study film and digital media production, and for me that was an absolute lifeline. So I've always had a job since I was 15. I've always worked, and some young people were able to go straight into industry, but for me, if I wanted to build a show reel and a body of work, I'm from a valley where nobody's interested in the arts, nobody was making films. If I wanted to build a body of work, I needed to go to a place that would support that. So when I enrolled at uni and we were looking at the modules and the projects that I was doing, it allowed me to also work part-time and support myself and practice skills that helped me build up experience in film. And I think that the university avenue has changed a lot, that it's not entirely academic. We're not going to send you to uni to write a book of seminars or essays. It's vocational and it's very practical. And I think that's really important for some people. It also teaches you about working with live clients, working to a brief, interpreting themes and context. And I think that that theoretical side really enhances filmmakers' understanding of how to construct. So it's not just about the technical and the practical elements, but how can we communicate a story through visual language? What are the constructs of that? How can we look at coding and convention and play with that? So for me, it was really important because it allowed me to be independent. But for some people, an apprenticeship might be a better option. But like internships and apprenticeships can be very short term.
Yeah, definitely.
And I couldn't justify doing something short term and then having the fear of going to working at Asda and being stuck there. So that's why it worked for me, and I think that's why it works for a lot of our students.
Yeah, I guess so. I think apprenticeship does have there's pros and cons to both, isn't there? Like, if you want to be getting paid at the same time as learning, apprenticeship route is the way to go, but university could also work part-time and do it. And like you said, it's not as traditional. It's not all just reading books and things anymore. It's more practical. But and there's the fear when you're in an apprenticeship, are they going to let you go and just never speak to you ever again? But also, if you have go through the apprenticeship route, you have something to put on your CV to say that you've worked with these people or in this company rather than just at a university.
Yeah, and I think employability is so important, because even though making films is like an absolute necessity for me and telling the stories is so important, we have to be able to support ourselves. And I remember that fear when I left university, and I was like, I'm in the big wide world now, what am I going to do? So I want to ensure that while students are here, they're leaving and they're on a trajectory. They've got a body of work, they've got a gorgeous show reel, they know how to promote themselves, they know how to work with big clients, small clients, organisations, and they're confident in their ability. And I think that's really important. The difference with apprenticeships as well, even though I think apprenticeships, and they do degree level apprenticeships, are really important, sometimes it can give you a very specific specialism. So to study a bachelor's degree or a foundation degree, it'll give you an opportunity to see an overview of different areas within that sector, rather than going into specifically like an apprenticeship in cinematography or sound. We get the opportunity to experiment with all different areas and develop your own specialism through practice.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of variety. You can see maybe you don't want to go into the path that you chose at the beginning of your journey.
Yeah, and I find that really interesting that students will enroll on the course like, I want to be a director, I'm going to be a director. And you're like, okay, all right, lovely. And then like halfway through the first semester, they'll be like, I love screenwriting, wow. And I'm like, well, you can screenwrite and be a director. Or they'll find that they love production design. Or I've got a student at the moment that's just absolutely taken to sound, and she just loves the whole sound design of film, and that's something that she'd never considered before she enrolled. She wanted to work with like video and visuals, and now her passion's for sound.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I think one factor that why she didn't consider this before is the fact that we learn about media and film in college over here, and I don't think that there's that much push of media and film in high school. It's like nothing at all really. So then you maybe you leave high school and you have to decide, actually I want to do film, and you have to decide on your own rather than having any information before in high school. I think that's a big factor of it.
Yeah, my love for film is as long as I can remember. I was so young when I just fell in love with film, and I fell in love with like British New Wave and social realism at a really early age. And because there wasn't an avenue to like practice film at high school, the closest thing was English, learning about literature and storytelling that way, and drama. And like I look back and I absolutely cringe that I was in like the performing arts course, because it was the closest thing to film for me. And I think if there had have been like even like an enrichment opportunity, a film club, a little film society, I think that would have really, really helped me. And I think it helps a lot of young people, that some students might not know how to tell a story. They might not be confident in writing or acting, but actually through film or photography or other like media practices, you can share your story and can express yourself. And I think there really needs to be a focus on that for young people
Yeah,
from an
100%.
earlier age.
I would have 100% benefited from a film club or something like maybe an after school club,
Mm-hmm.
something where there was teachers or someone. All they did was telling us this is a path that you can go down. You don't need to be in Los Angeles to make films.
Yeah, film is a trade, and I've heard somebody say before that film courses and photography courses and animation and art are Mickey Mouse courses, and the best response I ever heard was, well, Mickey Mouse made a lot of money, didn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is a trade, and just like every company needs an accountant, every company needs somebody working in media or marketing or producing content for them. So it is a trade, but it's also an art, and I think film is really, really enriching for individuals and communities.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said earlier, there is change happening, and I think we're talking about people saying it's Mickey Mouse and all of this kind of stuff. It's a very traditional mindset because the digital age has come out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, like even in 2010, there wasn't as much social media and stuff there is now in 2022. And every single business now, they need digital marketers, they need people to create content, and they're all basically filmmakers as well. People that are making these, even like Instagram reels and stuff, they have to think about composition, they have to think about storytelling, all of this kind of things. So I think it's should be taken a lot more serious than maybe those people.
Yeah. Everybody benefits from it, and you don't necessarily have to be technically proficient in colour grading or editing or shooting. Just experiment, and it always leads to something.
Always. All you need to do is tell a story.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to say last question is about Idle Work Factory. You mentioned it earlier on in the interview. It's based in Bradford, and I just want to talk about what you guys do. And I know you spoke to me earlier on about taking people on and things. I wanted to ask you about entry requirements, if you have any at all, or things like that.
Okay. So Idle Work Factory is a film production company. And it was originally founded by my partner, Jordon Scott Kennedy. And Jordon is a filmmaker. He's a writer and director. And he's got some amazing work. And Jordon is from Dewsbury. And he's a great one to talk to about his journey into film. Like me, he's always had a passion for film. And he eventually went to the Northern Film School to study film. And for him, that was such a huge decision because where he came from, nobody ever considered being a filmmaker. It was so unreachable, that aim. Everybody went into a trade. And he said when he went to the Northern Film School, it just absolutely changed his life. So he founded Idle Work Factory when he left film school. And the idea was that he was documenting creatives around Leeds and sharing their stories, and he came up with the concept. Now, I'm from near Manchester, Jordan's from Leeds, and like I said, we moved to Bradford last year, and we relaunched here in Bradford. And it's just been such a success. Everybody's been really supportive of us, and they've been sharing our story, and it's been wonderful. We had the first feature film coming out in spring.
Okay. What's it called?
Which is called Suicide Kelly, which was shot around the Leeds City region. Jordon used a lot of he used a boxing club, he used local crew and cast, and he's really proud of the fact that a huge proportion of that cast and crew were actually first time people that were trying to get into film and industry. And with both of our experiences being from a working class background, everything that we've achieved so far, we've had to overcome so many obstacles. And it might look like a short journey to some people, but we've had to literally get through so much to be able to even go to uni with such a huge thing for both of us. The Idle Work Factory continues to be an inclusive film production company that tries to harness and provide opportunities for people of all ages, backgrounds, to come and share their story or learn skills. So we are working on a range of projects, and Jordon liaises with the screen strategy, as you know, to try and support and enrich the screen sector within Bradford. But both of our backgrounds come from social realism and social storytelling. So that's kind of what Idle Work Factory is about.
Okay.
But we're really excited to work with lots of people from around Bradford, and kind of create opportunities for different people around the region. Because we wish that something like this existed when we were starting out. So we've got to give back.
That sounds really good. It sounds amazing. It sounds very inclusive.
Super inclusive. Like you mentioned entry requirements, and all we want to know is that you've got an interest. One of our good friends, Charles, he's from Bradford, and he actually came to Jordon on an internship when he was at college, and he was really struggling with the formal education system. He didn't feel like he really engaged with the curriculum, and he was recommended by his work experience officer to work with in film.
Okay.
So he started an internship with Jordon through Idle Work Factory, and eventually he picked up all the skills in production design, shooting, sound, editing, and he actually went down to Bath to study film. And he came back and he had he's now an actor, he had his first acting credit and a production design credit on a feature film with Idle Work Factory. So we're really proud of the progress that Charles has made, and like how talented and professional he is in both film and as an actor. And he's picked up some really lovely credits for features and short films across the country. So he's like a really prime example of what we try to do for people.
That sounds amazing. That's really good for Charles, and that's like awesome that you guys did that.
Well, mainly Jordon.
Okay, so yeah, that was my last question, and I just wanted to say that I'm gonna put all of like Screen Scales, BFI Academy we speak about, Idle Work Factory, all like links in the description of the video. And it was really nice chatting to you today, and thank you so much for allowing me to interview you.
Well, thank you for interviewing me.